When you look to hire someone for virtually any position, I think they want to know two main things. What does the position pay? And how about that benefits package? What does that look like? How you plan and put together the employee benefits package can impact more than you might think. And this isn't as simple as saying, well, we offer paid vacation, health insurance, and the like. Similar benefits that might simply seem the normal thing to do. To discuss this issue today and to dig into what's best for your company, I welcome Chuck Violand, the founder of Violand Management Associates. Chuck, welcome to the program.
Jeff, great to be with you again. Thank you.
Let's dig into this topic. I know in your book, Forging Dynasty Businesses, you mentioned that when considering employee benefits, there are two distinct elements to consider. Why don't you share what those are and what those watching can learn?
Absolutely. Jeff, what I'm referring to with the two elements are the first element is what the market and the competition are providing for their people. The second element is to determine what your company, how you want to position your company relative to your competition and to similar jobs. Now, as you might imagine, Jeff, it goes much deeper than that. And you also need to consider the size, the age, and your projected growth plans for your own company. And then what benefits can you afford to provide at those different stages of growth for your company? But you also need to consider any federal, state, or local regulations that might impact or have some kind of effect on the compensation and benefits that you offer your people.
I noticed too in your book, in the chapter on benefits, you talk about market assessments. So how do market assessments impact the decision-making process for employee benefits?
Jeff, in today's workplace, prospective employees really have options on where they choose to work. Now, I'm using the word choose intentionally. In today's economy, people don't really have to work, at least not in traditional jobs. There's a lot of ways to support yourself and to support your lifestyle without a job, or even at least without a traditional job. So instead, people choose whether they want to work or not. And then they choose the kind of work that they want to do. And then they choose where they want to do that work. So, and this is where compensation and benefits come into play. We talked about compensation in our last podcast. The same principles apply to benefits. You can take positions like bookkeeping, sales positions, manual labor, management positions. Lots of companies have lots of opportunities for these different kinds of positions. Okay, this means that candidates have lots of places that they can choose to go to work. Now, the benefits your company offers can become a differentiator to attract the candidates that your company rather than to somebody else, rather than to another company.
You know, Chuck, things have changed a bit over the years because what you described there, people can work or not and choose and pick these different types of jobs, makes it interesting for sure. So with that in mind, let's talk about out of the box thinking or benefits that can have an impact.
Yeah.
You write about training for managing finances or investment planning. Okay, those seem very personal to people, but you talk about companies offering that. Talk about that.
Jeff, I absolutely think that out-of-the-box benefits can have an impact, particularly for smaller companies. Many small companies really can't afford the same health benefits, retirement programs, and extensive time off benefits that larger companies can provide their people. So this is really where non-financial benefits can come into play. Things like clothing allowances, flexibility in work schedules, remote working opportunities, ongoing training and development, or having subject matter experts provide training or programs on things like personal finances and budgeting, health and wellness. Those things can add significantly to the value that people view by going to work for your business. And depending on your company, it reinforces your core values. Now, here's an interesting benefit that I just read about actually recently. A study was conducted by Deloitte in 2017, so it's what now, 7 years old, that found that 80% of people said that belonging is important when choosing an employer. And 62% of the respondents said that they would leave or that they've already left an organization for one that emphasizes belonging more. That is an intangible and non-financial benefit, but it's important to a lot of people. Here's another one. At Violand Management, we have an internal book club. Now, nobody has to participate, yet everybody is invited and they're welcome to join. With the current book, we're reaching over half of the company. Over half of the company is participating in this particular book club that we're doing. We have them for different books, but they're participating in this. And about half of those people are linking in via Zoom. Now, every week, we get a chance, the people that are on that meeting, we get a chance to share our ideas about the book, but also about how the readings apply to our personal lives, how we've experienced them in our personal lives, and also in the business. Now, Jeff, I don't think anybody is going to decide to stay or go to VMA because of the book club. At the same time, I think it supports our philosophy that we're a learning organization and that we care deeply about the people who work here.
You just really went outside the box there.
Well, that was pretty outside the box, but it
that's
does have
good.
an effect on how people, on where they choose to stay or
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. And that sense of belonging, really tough to, boy, you really have to think about what that takes to create that company culture, that feeling you want them to have. So thanks for sharing that, Chuck.
Absolutely.
I guess some might wonder whether you're offering the traditional benefits or some of the out-of-box thoughts you offered there. How do you track it? How do you analyze if what you're doing is really working? I mean, to me, it seems like if they stay with me or not might be one way, but there has to be more to it than that. Share that.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. I mean, and you're right. It is whether they stay or not. So you look at retention. But let's face it, any benefit, look, even the book club that we do, it has an expense associated, a cost associated with it. It's time that people are putting into this. So you always have to measure, are you staying, first of all, are you staying within the budget that you've established? And that should always, any benefits that you have should always be part of your budgeting process. So the first thing you track is, are we staying within the budget that we've established for the benefits of the organization? Then another one, and it is a key one, just as you mentioned, it is retention. Do we find that we are holding on to people, that they're staying here longer than prior, longer than before? I think that you can also add another one to that, a little bit more difficult to measure, and that is how many people that you currently employ were referred by somebody who's already with you. So rather than going through the expense of recruiting and possible turnover because you had the wrong candidate, you now have people who are coming to you because they've heard about the culture, they've heard about the benefits that you're offering, and it seems like a cool place to work.
All right. Well, let's wrap up, Chuck. Any final thoughts to share on today's topic? Things maybe not covered yet.
Yeah, there's, I suppose, just if might make the concept a little bit easier if you broaden the definition of benefits. And this goes back to some comments that both you and I were making earlier. Broaden the definition of benefits to both financial and non-financial terms. So all benefits have costs. I just got done mentioning that. But the financial benefits are things like healthcare, retirement, paid time off. I mean, pretty easy to measure, direct dollar for dollar. Non-financial benefits are things like scheduling flexibility, remote working opportunities, training and development, non-work related development that I mentioned above. If your company is not at a point where you can afford all the financial benefits that your larger competitors are offering, then I would suggest that you seriously look at being able to add non-financial benefits as ways to entice people to come and then entice them to stay.